Let's get started. Welcome to the May 18th edition of the Newburgh Community Forest Committee. We have only committee members here at this time. We do have a quorum. And to start things off, if we could appoint a timekeeper and a minutes taker.
I can do time. I can do time.
Okay.
I can do the minutes.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you both. I appreciate that. I've been trying my best to keep time for RCC meetings, and I always end up forgetting. Like in the midst of like running things and like changing topics, I always forget to write it down. So what I always have to do is like the next day, look at the recording and then like quickly go through and find all the time to send them along. And so hopefully it'll become more.
Ian, are you the minute or the
Be
timekeeper?
the timekeeper, yeah. Okay, so next up, we've got approval of minutes from April 27th.
I'll move the minutes.
Look good to me. I'll second that.
Any comments or concerns or adjustments? Okay, all in favor of approving the April 27th minutes, say aye.
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 Okay, so yeah, approved with one abstention from Julian. And then any additions or changes to the agenda? Okay, well, we will move on to item B. I forgot to take the time off with closure, but yeah, this time I didn't really know how long everything was going to take, so I figured I'd try a new approach and just not put times on anything. This is oftentimes what we see with the select board meetings, so it kind of gives us some more flexibility. And you know, if it seems like we start to lag and are talking too long on one point, then maybe I'll try to hurry things up so we can adjourn by 8. But we also might end up with extra time, so you know that would be nice too. That would happen.
A different agenda.
It is, yeah, and no packet items, which also felt weird. But yeah, we pretty much always had at least one packet item being the management plan. I mean, we probably have not had a packet itemless meeting for 2+ years. So yeah, it's a nice change, and hopefully, you know, well, I guess I'll just roll into item B. So, you know, based on where we're at with management plan, you know,
Hey, Sam, I'm sorry to interrupt. I had sent an email about trying to get the conversation about the north and south division on.
Mhm.
Talk about the bike stuff. Is that on this agenda?
it I did reply to your
Oh, you
to
did?
your message. We can talk about it under B, which would fall under management MB2 update process moving forward.
Okay.
I guess in short, my opinion is that you know, we have had talked about that section and voted on it, and we did vote on the entire management plan, and we are going to continue to do feedback and updates throughout the summer. You know, we're in our first like period of time where we're getting the feedback from RCC, RTC, and the select board. We're going to integrate, you know, that feedback, and then we're going to do the public comment. So we're certainly not finished with the management plan, so to speak, because like we're going to get feedback and we're going to need to figure out what changes need to be made. Considering the fact that we've spent you know, quite a bit of time deliberating over that item, and we could probably spend this entire meeting talking about dogs and bikes again for this meeting. So it seemed like since we had voted on that and had also voted to approve the entire management plan, we can continue to discuss it. But I think that the next time that we would want to consider making changes to the management plan would be like as we're reviewing and making changes based on the feedback we got from RTC, RCC, and the select board. Yeah, because so
And even the public, if that.
and public, yeah, and we exactly. But I mean, this all kind of falls underneath the management plan review process, item B, and that like, so our current state is that, we sent out this preliminary draft to those three committees. It's also posted, and you guys might notice that it's posted on the ACFC page on the site at the very top, above the banner. It says management draft. The draft, and it explains that the draft management plan is complete and currently under review by other town committees who will be soliciting public feedback in the near future after integrating feedback from the Select Board, Conservation Commission, and Trails Committee. In the meantime, you're welcome to take a look at the current draft and associated materials below. It's got the version that we approved as a committee. It's got the letter, the sort of frequently asked questions or like Q&A doc that was sent out with those materials. So that's where we are now, and it's like the things that we sort of have yet to do with it are designating editors for both the content and like the formatting. And then the third bullet here I have is the management plan update process moving forward. So, I think that's what your comment would fall under, Julian, is that like we should talk about it as a committee, whether or not we're going to continue making adjustments to the plan as we're getting the feedback. Because I think the goal was to kind of take a snapshot of what was approved by the committee, send it out for feedback, take that back, and then, make some updates, and then bring it back to the public, and then do one more round of updates, and then hopefully get it approved by the Select Board and the Vermont Land Trust. I think that if we start making adjustments to the plan, it no longer reflects what we sent out, so we have to continue to send out updates to those other committees saying like, oh, by the way, we also changed, our dog and bike policy, or we changed like X, Y, or Z. So I think it complicates things a little bit to continue making changes while we're sort of waiting for feedback from those committees. But I might be alone in that, in that opinion. So I think it's certainly open to discussion, but I thought that since we voted on this a couple of times, that it made sense to move forward, and there will certainly be time to continue to discuss it.
Yeah, clarification, you mentioned the management plan being at the website. So at the website, the page for, it's currently this committee, there's a heading ACF management plan, and there's a link which is currently to 2024 May of 2 years ago.
No, it's not that one. So are you on it should be at the top of the page. Here, I'll just share my screen. Let me just join the meetings.
I'm sorry, I'm from the page down too far. Oh, I see.
It's at the very top. So
At the very top.
before that image in the banner.
Yeah, the link further down is to the current one, the one that's.
The current approval, yeah.
But this is identified. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, 5/7 is the magic date.
And of course, I think the committee knows that there's work has been done on changing the website so that there's one for the committee and one for the forest. And the work that's been done drafting that definitely sort of clarifies what's in current plan.
So you guys helped
yeah.
me through that, I've been getting a lot of that, so. The management plan is up,
Yeah,
There's a link,
let me just show
there's a
you.
link to it. If you
Yeah,
go to
draft,
our page.
Sam's doing that.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll just share my screen real quick.
and Ian, what were you saying about there's a
Further down.
committee page and a town forest?
Oh, you mean?
That is going to happen in the future. So we basically this is from a few meetings back.
Okay, so I don't even, let's.
Essentially,
coming
yeah,
up on the.
in short, we decided that there's so much information on the ACFP page that it would be better to split it into the process of managing the forest and a page that's more useful for visitors. So we're essentially on the town website going to split things out where a lot of the current materials are going to stay on the page. And then there's going to be a separate page under community that will say like town forest or Andrews Community Forest. People can click on it. That's going to have like the maps and the rules and like all the stuff that people want to find out about the forest when they're on the town website. They should be able to find it quickly and easily there, rather than needing to scroll through a page that talks about the committee members and all this other background information that's not relevant to many visitors of the town forest. So that's what the splitting of the page.
If you look at that communities page on the town website, the fit would be perfect for the forest kind of stuff.
Okay.
You know, you as a visitor. And then you as a, you know. Whatever, committee member or member of the public interested in what we're doing.
Okay,
So
town forest page versus.
yeah, so just for transparency, like here's the situation. You go to the town website. Right now, there's only one page for us here under boards and meetings. If you click that, this is what I'm referring to right now. This is,
That's the right management.
yes, this is the management plan that we approved last meeting. This is the letter that was sent to RCC, RTC and the select board along with the management plan. And then this management plan FAQs was also included. The select board also got the flow chart, which is in their packet materials tonight. The updated flow chart that's much simplified from the one we had before, since we're not planning on using, a copy editor at this point.
And so for Julian's question about the dogs, but
Yes.
stuff, we're gonna have that. After the town has a chance to have input.
I'm asking, I'm not telling. So like, I just want to be clear, like, this is my understanding of the process right now. And we can, decide as a group, is that we spent, the last few years making updates to the management plan, which involved taking a vote about the recreation section, which includes the language about dogs and bikes in the northern section. And then there was another vote last meeting when we finally approved the whole management plan as a package as what we were going to send out to these other committees. So all I'm saying is that we've talked about this before, we voted on it. If we continue to go back and try to relitigate stuff that we've already talked about and then voted on, then we could just end up back in the log jam situation. Because we're at a point right now where we've sent this document out to those committees and we are still anticipating that we're going to be getting feedback and making changes. My proposal is that we can, I'm assuming that that's going to be feedback that we get from the Trails Committee. But if we don't, we could, we could discuss it. Then when in probably July, when we get all of the materials back and we look at them and we discuss, okay, where do we want to make edits based on feedback from the select board, RCC and RTC, that would be a great time for us to open that discussion back up. Using some of the points that were given to us by, the select board and the Trails Committee. And, public, we're not officially opening this for public feedback yet, but these are open meetings and the public can come and comment. So that is also something that could happen in July as well. When we're taking all that feedback into account, there may be public comment then as well. And so that is my proposal, is that we discuss it then, because we are already going to be making those other updates. But that's just my opinion, and so this is a group decision, not, this is not my decision.
So we'll incorporate, or this question will be incorporated in upcoming conversations with RCC, RTC, the select board. The public as well, how does?
So maybe I'll get this, maybe let me just pull up the.
I just need to put it in minutes, it's not a big deal.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Just trying to make sure I'm capturing the conversation.
The plan is to have sort of like a multi-stage process for approval, rather than
Sequential.
yeah, rather than, having a meeting where we get all our feedback from RCC, RTC, the select board and the public all in one go. We're sort of like breaking it up into stages. And if I go to select board's meeting, I think they'll have the flow chart posted, and I can show it to you, and that might make it more clear. So this is the document that's much simplified from the earlier version. This is where we are right now. We've already solicited feedback with that sort of advanced copy. Now, one of the items we have in item B is to talk about this section, which is essentially, we've already kind of talked about it, but I want to make sure that we're on the same page and that people have their marching order, so to speak, which is designating Sonia as the, grammar editor and somebody as like a formatter, whether that's me or Brad or Ian or some combination. Meanwhile, we're getting feedback from these committees. Brad and I are going to talk to the select board tonight. And basically, this is the proposal for what we think the feedback process is gonna look like, but the select board might tell us tonight. You need to open things up for online public feedback now and work with Duncan and Josh to get that set up. Or they might say 8 to 12 weeks is too short or too long. You need to change that time frame. And then also further down, we've got public comment, like a publicly warned meeting, much like the one at the middle school a few years ago. It would be a meeting where we essentially present and then we get feedback from the public live. This is essentially the
Yeah, rotten vegetables.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so this is essentially was sort of like my vision for like how the process would go. And then it goes to final draft and then select board and Vermont Land Trust, would approve it. We might make any edits if it's, there's a conflict with the easement or something, and then it would be complete. But this is a proposal, like this, we're an advisory board. And the select board ultimately has makes all the decisions here, so we've been designated as a group to try to make this process simpler for the select board. And so I'm proposing this as the workflow for how we get from now to an approved plan. That is hopefully something that Richmond voters approve of. And that it reflects the will of everyone in town, or like the net, the average.
And Julie, do you feel like that's, like there's a forum for that coming?
Yeah, no, I get the process logic, I get the fact that we've already sent things on and that there's gonna be a consultation period, I think that all that makes sense, and I'm, sorry, I couldn't be here for the last two meetings to bring that one up, and we could have talked about it before it got sent off, that's on me, that's not on you guys. Having said that, I think when we made that rule, and we voted on that rule, that was before we had all of the protections in place that we put into place subsequently that were based on Meredith's document. So we went through a lot after that meeting where we voted on that, to the point where I would argue that the protections that are necessary for the animals per Naughton are in there. And that then that division between north and south doesn't really, I don't see where the justification for that comes from in the document that we've been using 95% of in order to sustain the proposal we made for protection. Now, that doesn't change the fact that we voted on it and we sent it, but I guarantee you that we're gonna spend a whole lot of time talking about that in the next consultation.
Sure.
So, we could save ourselves a lot of trouble, we could save ourselves a lot of time. I think things have changed since we made that. It's true that we voted for it on time. I'm not sure we would relitigate it because we have all these other protections in place now. So, I'm feeling ambivalent. On the one hand, I get the process and we've moved on. On the other hand, I think we could save ourselves a lot of headache and future strife just by looking at it. And we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. I think I was outvoted last time. I think maybe Jimmy and Sonia felt sorry for me and they voted for my proposal that day. I would be curious. We don't even have to spend a lot of time on it, Stan, but just 10 minutes to see where people are at. The document that we're using, it's just one page that talks about the relevant bike section. If we looked at it, reviewed it, and you guys felt strongly that it justifies that prohibition, fine. I don't think it does. And I think we could save ourselves a lot of time down the road.
Can I make a proposal that since this kind of falls under, matters arising, or adjustments to the agenda, that we try to get through the agenda, and if we finish all the items that are on the agenda, that we can discuss this in the time at the end.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think your points make a lot of sense. I think you're right in that we did go sort of top to bottom with the rec section. So we talked about the objectives and the actions, which included, the moratorium on bikes and dogs in the northern section before we got down to buffers and whatnot. So, the map has
Buffers,
yeah.
acceptance buffers and.
Yeah, and the deviation process and all that stuff. So we did do more work on the section, before we approved it. So, the math has changed, but I also want to make sure that we, stay on topic and don't continuously just come back and discuss this, over and over. Ian, do you have a comment?
Yeah, so this process is really off to a running start, which is impressive. The select board this evening is looking at a number of documents, including the questions and answers document that we looked at our last meeting,
Yes.
which is really impressive, I think. It's really helpful. Maybe just as a reminder, is this issue of north-south included in the Q&A document?
Believe so,
I think so,
yeah.
Yes, I believe it is. There are many pages there. I will say tonight is mostly to talk about scheduling, so that flow chart that I shared. I guess we'll see how the discussion goes with the select board, but my thought was we were asking the select board's guidance for how we should move forward with the editing process. I'm hoping that it's not going to turn into fielding a lot of questions about the management plan, because we could spend, hours doing so. So I guess it'll be up to the select board to decide how they want to steer the conversation. I was hoping for them to look at the flow chart, look at our plan, and basically say like, yes, this process looks good to us. Here's what we would like you to do in terms of timing, in terms of steps, in terms of, are we having, a public feedback meeting? Is ACFC running it? Is the select board running it? And all that, all those nuts and bolts, so that we know exactly what we need to do to stay.
Select board has a lot on the agenda as usual, so.
They do, yeah.
Your summary is probably what we expected. The
Yeah.
other thing is, the Trails Committee has our draft on their agenda for their next meeting, which is actually tomorrow, so.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, things are really moving along. I don't know how much time they'll spend on it, but at least they'll be aware of it.
I was gonna try and go to that meeting tomorrow to talk about the Meadow Meander. And I can also speak to any questions they have about the management plan.
Yeah, it might be that, we're gonna try to hit a moving target here, and we need to move the date a little bit. I realized, so I had a meeting last week with RCC, and RCC did not seem too keen on dedicating an entire meeting to talk about it. What they wanted to do was like dedicate an hour to talk about it and then see how far we got based on comments. I suspect there's gonna be plenty more to talk about, maybe not, but if that happens and RCC wants to discuss it on two different meetings, that means that the resulting document that gets sent back to us is gonna be a little less than a week later than the deadline. I think I gave a deadline of July 10th, and I think it would push it out to something like the 14th or like the 15th. So I was trying to give, I basically used the 10-week mark, because we said 8 to 12 weeks. So there is some wiggle room there. So I guess, Jen, if you end up attending the RTC meeting, I don't think I can attend. If you end up attending, I can let you know based on what we get from the select board tonight. But like, it's not a super hard deadline that it has to be, July 10th. That was kind of what we were trying to set up as a goal. But because they're talking about it already at their meeting tomorrow, it sounds like they'll have plenty of time to talk about it at their next meeting as well, unless they have a bunch of other items. If they feel like it warrants, multiple meetings.
I wouldn't think they would pick through it the way the Conservation Commission would. I think it's gonna be like this more
Spots.
yeah,
Yeah.
dogs bite
Sure.
northern,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, and that's just, well, that could turn into a long conversation, but
yes,
I don't think they'll be like, oh, we need 20 edits,
yeah,
before we're okay with this, and I think
Gotcha.
it'll be, just that usual log jam that we've always had, so. So, but to go back, tonight's select board meeting is about scheduling.
Process, yeah.
yes, ideally. And I think that if we've got extra time, I would be happy to talk more about the dog discussion. But I think that we should probably try to get through all the other things that we'd like to talk about, and then, if time allows, then we can start to have that discussion in anticipation of feedback. And then that, in terms of saving, saving ourselves trouble in the future, we may already have some thoughts on the feedback that we may get, next month or what that.
Did you guys send the FAQs document to the select board?
It went to the select board, it went to all three committees, and it's also posted on the main page of the ACFC.
Okay, well, sorry, I'm sorry, you're not quite done. The FAQs document, guys, is not, it's not okay. It's really skewed and distorted, and I don't think it reflects either the materials that we've looked at or our discussions. So I'm sorry I wasn't here last time or the time before, but I don't feel like that's a fair
It
document.
was sent out, it was in the
Yeah,
packet.
that's my bad, and I didn't do my homework, that's on me, but I think you guys did not do a fair job.
Point that out, you know, at the time.
Alright,
I mean, you could feed your stuff to the Trails Committee, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. I mean, you could.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know what else to say, cause we
Yep.
worked on the document, it went to the meeting, it was posted, we
Yeah.
talked about it in a meeting.
yeah, yeah.
So I apologize if it doesn't, if you don't feel like it
No,
reflects.
it wasn't you, I didn't speak, so I didn't take my opportunity, but I just have to tell you guys, I think you know that document is not
So-
reflective of the facts, I don't think.
So Julie, meaning like
The management plan FAQs.
yeah, but you feel like they're one-sided, like, you know,
Yeah,
less recreation, more.
it's more the
Wildlife
justifications of the north-south stuff, and the characterizations of dogs and wildlife, rather dogs and bikes, which have very separate treatments by Meredith Naughton.
How is like, I agree that there's a more complicated narrative behind that. But in terms of like what the committee has decided for how many years now, right?
Yeah.
We've been doing this,
Yeah.
like the conclusion has always been that, so.
Yes, I am the minority report here for sure.
Yeah.
And I just wanna lay that opinion out again on the record, guys. I don't think it reflects reality, and I think you're gonna get a lot of pushback on that. And I think it's completely unnecessary, because we've made so much progress on all the other stuff. We don't need that anymore. And you're just gonna walk into a firestorm that is completely unnecessary after everything that we've done.
So you feel like the FAQ doc is gonna just get people's hackles up?
I think it's gonna, people's habits up. I don't think it's justifiable based on the information that we've been using. And I think it's all about, you know, one clause in that management plan I understand the need to protect the forest, and I think we've been through a lot of conversations about that, and I just think we're gonna drive right back into the heart of that logjam without needing to, because you had all those great protections that we worked so hard on, including exceptions to over the past year, so. And I just think it's unnecessary, and we're gonna just cycle right back to where we started.
Okay,
Wow, that'll be a.
yeah, noted.
So I mean, I'll just say we have 4 audiences. We've got the Conservation Commission, the Trails Committee, the Select Board, and the public.
Yeah.
And so,
It'll come back,
And I believe, like, the part of the
but
reason,
also there's a balance there, because there could be
Yeah.
someone on the Conservation Commission side that is saying, not agreeing with you.
Sure, I mean, I mean, if they have documentation that we haven't used, then they should bring it. I think our own documentation does not sustain that claim.
also, I will say that the select board's opinion on the plan is going to hold the most weight, because ultimately they're the ones signing it, and we are an advisory board, so the select board may say, you are crazy for, deciding to put a moratorium on dogs and bikes in the northern forest, so we wanna see it gone before we'll sign it, and that might just be that, that might not even warrant much discussion from this committee, because if they say, that was basically, what Jay said a few years ago about the number of bike trails was, I'm never gonna vote for this bike park, is like what he said, it was an email that was sent out to the public, although it was intended for, private consumption. We might get comments from the select board that are, say as much, like, we can't sign this with this in place, if we violated the conservation easement. Or the easement, the Vermont Land Trust holds, that would be a non-starter for approving the plan. So we might get other comments from the select board that basically supersede any opinions that we have. So they might say, we love the plan, but we don't like this dogs and bikes thing, and that might make for
They get to decide, I'm just saying, as the advisory board, we're putting them in a position where they have to say that, and we could avoid it very easily for them.
Unless they hear it from the other side. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, sure, but I mean, we have those protections in there, like, we have built a really solid
I
plan.
thought we were gonna talk about this at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah, fine, yeah, I'm just putting it out there.
okay.
And
Well, you could well be right.
For the record and for the minutes, Lissy Trevor Brooks is
Oh,
online, so we should.
gotcha, yeah, just put him on the attendance sheet. Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, so I guess we've kind of talked about the current state and what the plans are, and we're gonna have more information on that tonight after we discuss with the timing of the select board. As far as designating editors, feel like we kind of already went over this, but I want to sort of make it official. Now that we've sent this out and we're waiting for the feedback from these other committees. The plan was to have Sonia go through and, you know, make any necessary grammatical changes without changing the actual, you know, intent of the management plan. Are you still up for that, Sonia?
I am.
And I can coordinate with you separately, or like Brad and I can coordinate with you separately on how to do that, you know, which either in Word or, you know, Google Docs, you can essentially make your changes in suggestion mode so we can see, you know, whatever changes you've made to the language, and then we'll, you know, we can, you know, go over it, and hopefully it's just gonna be, yeah, this reads better, and hopefully for every edit that you make, it's going to just read more clearly, but it's not gonna open up, you know, discussions about like, hey, this changes, you know, what we're saying about the forest, or, you know, the rules or any of that stuff.
Right.
This is just a polish.
So you both will have agreed to Sonia's changes before we see it.
No, I want the group to be able to see the changes.
No, we'll see the changes, but you will have supported them. So that we're,
Sure, we
it's
could
gonna
do
go a
that.
little faster. If
Yeah.
you both
Yeah.
have, to me, if you both have reviewed
Yeah.
and like the changes,
So there'll be like three sets of eyes on it.
three sets of eyes on it versus
Yeah,
me chiming in and going, well, I don't really like this, and
We could do that, to basically vet them, and if we feel like there's anything problematic, then we could send it back, or just, or ask a question and say like, hey, we'd like to see this changed, or, you
it's
know.
up to you guys.
but it'll be at the level of, you know, well, I like split infinitives, you know?
Yeah, well, nothing, so yeah, but nothing is going to get approved, you know, until
Right.
it comes back to this body and everyone can look at it and say, yes, we feel like this just reads more nicely. And so that's sort of like step one, and then after that's happened, the plan is to just do one go over for formatting. I think the doc is in pretty good shape formatting wise, but it could probably still use just a little bit more polishing in terms of, you know, moving around the images so they're, you know, they're in the right spot, and like making sure things have captions, and we talked about getting rid of duplicate links, you know, or duplicate references.
Yeah,
And
right.
just stuff like that, that's purely cosmetic, that if it is going to be a final product that's going to go out and be read by people, that it doesn't look sloppy. But that, I want that to happen after Sonia has done her work, because then that way. We're not going to continue to edit the document after after we've tried to like get the formatting right, because, you know, as you pointed out, like tables of contents have gone missing, or like links to different sections have gone missing, so hopefully we get all the edits done. And then maybe you or you can show Brad or I how to add that in ourselves, and then we can make sure.
Yeah, I do want to make myself available for, you know, purely technical things, which I've been able to struggle with Word to persuade it to do. Page numbering, I've done that several times, it could use that again.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and the hot links from the table of contents, I think it's a valuable thing, I know how to do that, so, yeah,
So good, yeah.
I wanna be available to do those kinds of technical things.
Great, so yeah, it could be you get the last sort of,
Yeah,
you're the
yeah.
last stage, and you add back in the tables of contents and the page numbers and the stuff that's. Will make it look more official, and we could probably get rid of the line numbers for the last draft, or maybe we leave them, I don't know.
Yeah, they're handy, you know.
That's true, with a, you know, 60-page document or however long it is.
It'll be easy to strip out.
If Sonia's happy with that, I know she said she's not familiar with Microsoft Word, she uses Pages more.
Google Docs are
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say Google Docs and Word are mostly compatible. Pages, I have a really hard time. With those Pages files or the products that Pages puts out, it seems to mess up the formatting more. So if you wouldn't mind using Google Docs, I think that would keep things more orderly.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay,
Just quick question, do people need a Google account to use Google Docs? I can't tell, because I haven't, so I can't tell.
probably, I mean.
I think that to edit Google Docs, you just, the person who owns the document has to identify.
Right,
permissions
but they don't
and
necessarily need a Google
permissions to edit.
account.
One of those.
Yeah, because you get a link and boom, you're in, I
Yeah,
think.
which has to
Okay.
be
I might be right.
one that allows editing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I guess you can create a guest profile in your browser and then. I mean, it's pretty easy to sign.
Yeah,
up
we
for,
could, no,
you
I
know.
was just curious.
Okay, so plan is for Brad and I to reach out to Sonia and field any questions she has about next steps for
Yeah.
edit or technical, process for editing. And then as soon as the grammar polish is done, then we'll do formatting. Which will probably include sending it to Ian as a last step to add back in the tables of contents and whatnot. I guess. We might wanna hold off on, that last formatting piece until we've actually integrated some of this feedback, because like we could end up in a similar feedback loop where it goes to Sonia and then it goes to, me to clean up the formatting, and then it goes to you. But then once we start editing it based on feedback from the other committees, that we lose the table of contents again, so I don't wanna make you do more work than. Do it like 2 or 3 times, so maybe we hold off on the last pass until we have the document we're trying to send to the select board for that final approval.
I'll be here,
Okay,
inshallah.
okay, sounds good.
You can edit a Google Doc without a Google account.
Oh, you can, great.
Thank you.
Okay, and so I think that pretty well covers like the management process from here on, or basically for the summer. And Brad and I can update you all with whatever the select board says this evening when we chat with them. So we'll move on to the next item, which is follow-up from an on-site visit that Wright, Jim, and I did. The main plan was to talk about rights of way. And then, yeah, I mean, that was the main reason for moving. But we discussed a few different things. I can sort of give a report, or if somebody else would like to.
For those that didn't attend.
Friday.
Yeah.
That was on Friday, yeah, we met at, 9?
Well, I saw this in one of the documents.
It is, that was-
It's already in there.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yes.
It's a management plan.
Yeah, so yeah, this is, so we went to go look at the, particularly the right of way, by Sonia's house, 1147 East Main Street. And, right now, as I'm sure we're all aware, the Meadow Meander Trail goes through her property. And in some cases, it sounds like people are just walking through her yard. I don't know if they're coming from the parking lot up or if they're coming from the trail down. But she
They're
is
coming
getting some
Trail down.
trail down. Okay, great. So, yeah, we walked around, we took a look, it's very clear that part of that trail is currently on Sonia's land. There was a gate that, a big metal gate that used to be, I think, connected to that fence there. It was just kind of lying on the side of the trail, which we actually moved in between the trail post and just like a sawhorse that was there to basically block off and make it clear to folks that if you're coming down the forest road, aka the farm road, that you should bear right. And if you look up, you'll see a signpost that has, trail with arrows in either direction. So hopefully that will reduce the traffic onto Sonia's property. We also, talked about potentially rerouting Meadow Meander like slightly higher up so that a right of way isn't necessary. And just like the feasibility of that. We also talked about potential access road improvement, basically between that follows the power lines that basically connects. There's a section that Velco has not upgraded or put down the landscaping cloth and the gravel on, and it would basically connect the vast trail. The former vast trail kind of goes across, gets down, and comes back up, and it's kind of that section in the dip that was not part of the former vast trail. That potentially, if we were going to have, people traveling along it, and or if we negotiated a right of way or a change of direction for cattle for Maplewood Farm, it would be helpful if that road was upgraded. And then other miscellaneous topics we talked about were moving the picnic tables that are just.
Well, just back to,
Sure.
our thinking was that if we could improve the upper eastern section of the utility road to have it connected in an improved fashion back down to the former vast trail, then Bruce and the town would consider or I'll say Bruce, would consider an exchange where they would not use have a right to use the yellow easement through Sonia's property and the southern part of the green easement through, Andrews Community Forest in exchange for using the utility road, which is far more improved and in far better condition to support traffic, vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's what we talked about.
Not the map for that, just so if anyone's looking at this online, because like forever, I don't think it's
Yeah.
to see. What we're talking about here, I know the map is in the draft that we sent out.
It's in an email I sent to you as well.
So did you see that email I sent you today?
I did not get a chance to look at that, I had a very.
I talked to Bruce this morning
Oh, okay.
and, yeah, it was great, cause he had a lot of interesting concerns related to moving that, which makes a ton of sense.
Moving what?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, he was saying that, like, even just making them take a right turn is really hard. And they just don't like to do that,
Oh.
and then you also need to think about, like. They can't just. Like wander off on the Bass Trail, getting them to sort of just like follow the way you want them to follow is not that simple, so. However, he said just like swapping the right of way couldn't really happen without. Figuring out how the cattle would actually move, through that whole space. But he did think if there was a way to use the lower meadow and the meadow with the spruce trees. That it could be made to work, and that would maybe even improve things for him, was kind of my understanding, but it would hinge on an agreement of some sort. to
For
use
sure.
those meadows,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, which, and he was saying that the license thing that you had mentioned on that day was, his lawyer basically just said, that's not, I don't know, that's not gonna work. Or whatever,
Right,
recommend.
that was clear, that was
Yeah,
clear.
yeah, and-
It was the town attorney saying it's a license, going to be
Yeah.
a license. And his attorney, David Sunshine, saying, no, it's going to be a lease.
And I don't know if that's, the sort of legal rationales that he's, buying these cattle that are expensive and without, a workable place for them to, graze.
Right.
Like, if that was revocable, then maybe you couldn't get a loan to buy the cattle, or I don't know. I don't know why
Right.
or lease versus licenses.
Right.
Makes sense.
For him, that was definitely, a deal breaker.
Right.
So, he said he's, willing to continue to talk about things. I kind of think for the sake of this conversation, like the right of way that the town has across Sonia's property could be moved, right? And then this conversation with Bruce could continue. I mean, he might never have cattle again, and it might
Right.
not affect Sonia's property in any way in future. Or he might, and that is an occasional
Let me
transit.
just interrupt if I may, just based on what you just said, what if we, as we are rerouting the Meadow Meander Trail, if that's what the committee wants to do, this like approval, I guess. Worked with Bruce to do that, so that when the cattle cross the road from the farm, I guess. And they need to get to the upper pasture, they use Bruce's and the Trails Committee designed trail to get from the utility road to the old farm road.
Yep, and there's certain.
Somehow that would accommodate a tractor and cattle and people on feed.
Yeah, it could work. I mean, one potential benefit to that would be. If it's going through the meadow and it's wide enough for cattle and or a tractor, then. That reduces mowing concerns potentially, and it's like, people getting ticks brushing up against all that, throughout the season, so. that's another potential benefit. I think building a trail that big is probably, I don't know what that means like cost wise. You know, it doesn't seem like something you could just do like with by hand. It seems like you need, heavier equipment to do that. But I'm not a trail designer, so I don't know. Those are just my initial.
Right.
Yeah, he mentioned something about like using that gate that we moved that day, going into that lower meadow, that somehow that like they could come down and turn in there for some reason. I can't remember why
Right.
the rationale was.
I mean, I think you're right, that a design proposal that was, I mean, only Bruce really understands where
Yeah.
it goes and where it needs to go, right? So if you put him in and have him design, then we bring that back here and think about the.
So we have
implications.
two parties or three parties, it's, it's our use, the town's use.
Yeah.
The public's use and the farm use.
Yeah, yeah.
Somehow, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
My kind of read, and again, I don't understand
Yeah.
how to move cattle.
I don't,
But is that if he could use the lower meadow and the spruce tree meadow, that he could make it work. There might need to be some additional fence here and there and what.
I,
That he could.
that's
make
a
it.
good strategic plan, because that's kind of our goal too. We'd like, I would like, I can't speak for the committee, to have agriculture take place in those fields.
well, depending on how he's grazing, it's probably really good for the soil
Right.
and good for the sort of meadow ecosystem.
Right. And it's,
Is that,
yeah,
that was what I was worried about, that it would be, certain people would feel like it was. Yeah, environmentally.
If he's doing it right, it'll make things better. It'll make the soil, yeah, it'll make the soil better.
Yeah.
the. Who knows, but the challenge is up above, we have two gates in the upper meadow.
Yeah.
Cause the utility company, they have carte blanche, they don't,
Yeah, right.
a fence to them is just something you drive over.
Suggestion. Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah, it sounded like the way the lower meadow and that spruce tree meadow would be used is to facilitate. It wouldn't necessarily be for grazing so much. It would
Oh,
be
okay.
That like, yeah, when they were getting ready to move, they'd go to there and then,
hang out,
get them across the road and into there. And then Bruce could like
right,
get
okay,
situated on the other side, then
Right.
move them farther up. That was sort of how I understood it, but
Yeah.
it would be great to get him,
right,
and he's pretty busy now, I think, but
Yeah.
at some point.
Okay, so it sounds like we wanna potentially talk about this in the future. Because it does. For the town, it does simplify things long term. Only not needing to have the easement on 1147 East Main Street, and also. Putting all the traffic in one location for the cattle and for folks. Also, another potential upside to that design might be, accessibility. If we're trying to make a trail that's, usable by all types of people.
Yeah.
You go from like a narrow trail to a wide trail, which, it's still going to have, some pitch to it, at the bottom. But I don't know, if trail width is something that we wanna consider in terms of accessibility, like that could be another benefit there, so I think we should talk about it at a future date. I think this is a reroute, so I guess it doesn't necessarily fall under like the same. Rules as like the other trail development stuff, but I think it would make sense to discuss this once we're through the management plan edits.
yep,
So maybe later this summer.
So actually so then moving the Meadow Meander thing. That's not like it would be next week then, we should just,
I think it's.
We could start talking.
I think we should start talking about it.
Okay. Yeah, cause any, scratched in trail, if we decide. It's gonna be a farm road,
Right,
then it's, big deal, you just.
right,
Gotta move this bridge that we've moved once and
right.
not a huge deal, so.
So
then
what are the next steps then, if we wanna make this happen?
Which part, the Meadow Meander thing?
I mean, both, and we're combining this all into one, and we're, working with Bruce, we're basically choosing to move Meadow Meander outside of, Sonia's property, so that we
I
don't.
kinda think for the sake of Sonia's property, that should just happen. It's
Right, but I-
without a right of way that.
True, but
Across
we're,
the property.
yeah,
Right.
we're trying to do it all in one go though, like, if
How
we're gonna
about
talk.
the next step being a meeting, and I don't need to be there, just a suggestion. Bruce and a couple of us, a couple of committee members.
Yeah, that
Sort
makes
of
sense.
walk and talk and see if there's a concept.
I think that's a good idea, cause Bruce might be able to point things out on the ground saying, yeah, a cow is not gonna go like over
Yeah.
this section, or, you know, cause we kind of.
And maybe you're a trails, you're part of the trails suite,
I'm not, but.
or a trails person from the trails committee.
Right,
And Bruce and a couple of people from the committee.
I think that's a good plan.
and.
And Beth.
And hopefully, you know, what we've done to keep people from walking into Sonia's yard is enough to
Yeah,
Yeah,
make Sonia happy for
yeah.
short term.
And if he needs the gate, we can get another gate. They're only,
Yeah, I mean, there's no cattle.
right.
Also, I'll point out that, because Sonia hasn't said too much, and I think I'm reflecting this properly. Sonia has not asked us to move this.
Right.
But Jim, Wright and I thought that it's probably better to have less rights of way that the town needs to be managing. What happens if the property, you know, changes ownership? It's one more thing to worry about, especially if we're able to meet dual purposes or even more than, you know, two purposes for a new trail. I think that's a win for the town. So I just want to, you know, make it clear that we're not being asked to do this by Sonia. This is something that we felt like would be
right.
just a good thing to do in
Yeah.
general, and we appreciate Sonia's flexibility in being cool with the traffic that has been flowing through her property. Even though the trail existed before she bought the property, it's still, you know, traffic on her land, so.
Yeah, we never really coordinated with the trails committee. And thought about her land. It was just a good place to put the trail and. No one really, oh, it's on somebody else's property. And we could have, we as the town should have thought of that and we did. Well,
Yeah, and I think if that backup septic site wasn't right there, you know, maybe it would be reasonable to have a right of way for that trail, but. You can't have a right of way through our. Future leach field.
And it's confusing people, especially because of the traffic coming through, even with the
Mhm.
gate, it's just like people are getting confused and going the wrong way, and so there are multiple reasons why it makes sense to move it, so.
Yeah.
But I just want to make it clear that, you know, this was the committee's decision independent of, you know, any, you know. Pressure or wish, you know, that Sonia had expressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Last item there, is, moving picnic tables from the log landing to the parking lot, or moving them somewhere, because right now there's a couple of picnic tables that I think were built by a scout troop back in 2021 that are just kind of tucked around, it's in the log landing, but if you're coming up the road and you kind of go around the corner to the right, they're just kind of tucked there, and I don't think they're getting any use, so it seems silly to just have them sit there and potentially, you know, get, you know, rot or get weathered. I don't know exactly where we would put that. I mean, I think there's room for maybe one picnic table on the parking lot. It's a little bit sloped and there's not a whole lot of grass between the parking lot and Sonia's property. But there are a few places we could potentially put it, and it might be nice for folks who wanna, you know, sit down for a moment to tie their shoes, or to just stop and, you know, have lunch, you know, at the trailhead or something, you know, so it seems like they'll get more use if they're there than if we just leave them kind of almost in the woods, at the edge of the log landing, so that's something else we talked about, updating.
And we should put them on the map, I just realized.
Oh, yeah, good point.
The picnic tables? Put the picnic tables on there?
Yeah. You know, plug it.
I'm willing, I think one at the land, at the kiosk is probably enough.
I agree, and maybe the other one we pull out of where its current location, so it's actually visible and folks
Right.
might want to use it. Because right now, you only kind of see it on your way out of the forest,
Right.
you don't really see it on your way in. And so, yeah, I mean, it would just be nice for folks if they were able to utilize them.
I'm happy to grab one
Okay,
and bring it down.
using,
My truck and a trailer.
okay,
Yeah.
do you need help?
Things are heavy.
Yeah, so maybe someone will offer that.
Okay, cool, well, if you need help,
Yeah.
I guess, reach out.
Maybe one of your neighbors.
Guy in the green shirt.
Okay, I guess we'll move on to D, visitor materials updates. So I just want to circle back on, we kind of talked about this earlier. The rules doc and then the website, and like sort of like the state of the kiosk and what our plans are there. So we have this rules doc. It wasn't in the packet, but it was in the April, I believe it's April 6th. Is when this was in the packet. It was our first meeting in April, that this was included in. I didn't bother to look when we went, although I should have. But I'm curious, are we ready to post this? We did basically get select board approval to make whatever changes we want to this document, that they trust us to be able to operate independently and make reasonable adjustments. This will of course reflect some of what's been mentioned in the management plan. So like we did talk about dogs and bikes, and so that is subject to change. So maybe we're kind of getting ahead of things. I think this is an easier to read document, so it'd be nice to get out. But at the same time, if this is making assumptions about what the management plan is going to look like once it's approved, then maybe we just pump the brakes and just hold this in reserve until the management plan is approved, hopefully later this summer. But I did want to follow up on this because it got pushed off of our last agenda or two. And the plan was to put this at the kiosk and then also on the website. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, since you and Brad were both working on this rules doc independently, and we had met with the select board about it, but I guess what I should also mention is in the context of this, there was a recent situation where it seems like folks are using the forest for pack walks, like dog pack walks, where like a bunch of dogs are all off leash together in the forest. Which I'm not against pack walks, but if we have a leashed dog policy, then I don't think that they should be doing that. And also I know like commercial use is not allowed. I don't know if that really, they're not really like making money off of the forest, but I guess they are using it as a location to bring dogs for their business. So I don't know if folks have any opinions on that. I don't really care that much either way, although I do think that if we're saying dogs should be unleashed, then we need clear signage so that folks know that dogs should be unleashed. And if you're running a pack walk and there's no way to do that without your dogs on a leash, then you would find somewhere else to go.
Right, and I think it's always good for folks to get permission. And last fall, there was the same van on our property with 16 unleashed dogs during deer season. And
Wow.
and I,
Cows?
this is,
Cows? Where were they?
well,
Just regular dogs.
they were
Pets.
little dogs and big dogs, they were all wonderfully behaved.
Not to hunt, not.
No, they weren't hunting dogs, no, they were,
No.
well, they were sniffing dogs.
Hounds.
No, but it was, you gotta check in.
Yeah.
And so if it's a habit, they should. We kind of have a policy, they've gotta be on a leash. The 16 on our property were not leashed, they were very well behaved, but it's deer season, guys. So,
Yeah, is the white van a dog van? Did we discover it? Is it the ones, okay, on in the Andrews Forest?
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know who they are.
Yep.
Just,
Is
you saw them,
I went by and there were a million cars parked there and I go, holy God, what's going on? So I went back and there was a woman coming out with her dog on a leash. So I drove in and, was all friendly with her and, cool, I'm on the committee and great to see all these people. I said, what's going on here? She said, told me, there's a pack walk going on. She wasn't part of it. She just encountered him up there somewhere. And I didn't get any other detailing.
It's like a thing that people do. Let's get together and walk with our dogs.
No, it's a commercial, they're professional dog sitters. So you wanna give your dog exercise while you're working,
With the pack.
you give them to these people and they take them out and they.
Yeah.
Dog socialize
And train.
is good.
They're very well trained
They
dogs.
must train them, they have to. Otherwise, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a community resource, so I'm not opposed to the idea, it's more of a, does that mean that we should, if we wanna allow something like that, then we shouldn't have a dog leash rule, it should be a voice control, because if they're not causing damage and they're doing things within, if we feel like that's a good activity that people should be doing, then, that's not compatible with the leash law that we currently have in place. So like, I'm not necessarily arguing for one versus the other, but I think right now, either we need to tell or post signage saying, dogs must be on leash, make it very obvious, and folks who are doing pack walks are going to have to walk by that sign and at least acknowledge the fact that they're not in compliance with the rules.
Yeah.
Or we should change the rules and then try to have some kind of working relationship with these businesses. I don't know how we do that, because we don't necessarily know who these people are, but like if one of us happens to be in the forest and we run into a pack walk, then like it would be great if we could try to talk with that person, get their contact info, and maybe like continue the discussion.
And I looked on the web, there's several have websites, put it that way. And it would be easy to contact them and just inform them of the rules and say, not accuse them of ever being there, but saying, in case you're thinking about going to Andrews, here's the rule.
Yeah.
Trevor Brooks was head of going there.
Okay, let me, yeah, Trevor Brooks says they could register in some way so you know who they are if there's a problem. Yeah, I guess that's another thing, it's like liability, so if you've got a big,
Yeah,
pack of dogs and there's a situation. I don't know what that means for like liability for the town, versus it being something on private land, so.
They must carry insurance, I can't imagine. That'd be
I would think they probably do.
dangerous if you're down there without insurance.
I know as a currently non-dog owner, it's nice that other people have their dogs on leashes
Yeah.
when you're in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I support a leash rule. Probably won't when I get a dog.
I mean,
Yeah.
Another topic that, depending on feedback from.
Right.
If it's,
Like,
a really contentious issue, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe it's
Retreat
something,
is necessary and no one really says anything, then we just stick to that.
yeah, it
I
could
do
be,
think, like you're talking about, right? You kind of have to default towards the folks who are not dog people.
Right,
I always figure, right?
right.
Much as you want to avoid those negative signs, don't do this, none of this, this is not allowed. Yeah, a lot of people probably don't want to meet a pack of dogs.
Right.
yeah, Travis just said, I would generally not go down a trail with a pack of unleashed dogs. And like, I will know, if somebody like who grew up with dogs, but has also been bitten by a dog before that was not mine. That had an effect on me for a few years where, it made me think twice about interacting with other dogs. I also have a dog who can be reactive with other dogs, and it's like, I don't know how well behaved these off leash dogs are, but one problem that I have, with my dog is, if she's under voice control or on leash, I cannot always control other people's dogs, and some dogs are kind of clueless and they kind of. May have been raised in an environment where they assume every dog they encounter is friendly. My dog is not friendly with other dogs, and she's great around people, but. If there's a situation like that, if I'm expecting folks to have their dogs on leash in the forest, another dog runs up off leash, then that creates a situation that is not cool, for people who have dogs, for people who don't have dogs, so like. I don't know, and I also feel like we've talked about how, we can't necessarily enforce this, so some folks are gonna have their dogs under voice control, there's not really gonna be a penalty. My thought is that because people are going to have a tendency to bend the rules anyway, it's probably better to have a leash policy and that. But it could be, again, this is something that comes up in the feedback and we end up deciding. Voice control is fine, and like if there are issues, then we'll discuss it and we can, adjust as necessary. So that was more just like a call out in terms of like the kiosk and website discussion, because it involves signage and it involves trying to be transparent with the public about what the rules are and, what the expectations are. So that said, do folks have thoughts? It sounds like the dog discussion, maybe we hold off and talk about a little bit more. in the context of the feedback that we're gonna get this summer. In terms of the kiosk and the website in this rules document, do we?
I have one more, so. E-bikes are not allowed, is that?
Can we say that on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, motorized, not be allowed according to the easement.
Yeah, I know, I think that's a real gray area. I
Yeah.
wonder-
Well, it's in,
Didn't we-
it's
didn't we
in,
talk about this?
it's in the
We did,
easement.
right, but remember, and I'm not promoting e-bikes
Oh, I
at
know.
all, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's a very gray area legally about whether or not they are motorized, that's why you can, you see kids who are under 16 with no helmets whipping around on really fast bicycles that are not, in theory, legally speaking, motorized. So it's a gray area,
And I think that's how the easement.
I mean, it says motorized, and legally speaking, I don't think
Motor.
e-bikes are motorized, yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's a fair question, I don't understand, I just know that's the loophole. But I think what we talked about is that you were worried on your trails that you would see a ton of e-bikes, and really all you've seen is as people age out of their
Yeah.
physical abilities on regular bikes, then they get on e-bikes, and it's not, it's just another form of recreation for people, so.
Well, and there are different classes, as
Yeah.
you know, of e-bikes, and
Yeah.
I forgot what the.
Yeah, I think people who don't have that broad prohibition create those classes to put some limits on it, right? So you
Well,
can't have,
there's a national standard of classes.
Yeah.
e-bikes. Right.
so the industry probably created that too. So they don't get knocked out, en masse, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but just to
I'm not
recall what
sure,
we
I
said,
think they were created by the US Forest Service, but I'm not.
With the industry, I'm sure,
Okay.
but anyway, whatever.
but we came to a conclusion on this, I think, which is that. No, you don't have to separate them, because you haven't seen a tremendous invasion of e-bikes on your property, and that's a pretty good indication of what people are riding bikes. So if they're not riding on your trails, they're probably not gonna ride on these trails, if
I
they
know,
do.
I know someone had a problem with an e-bike and a dog at the same time, an awfully.
Well, I'm not saying nobody's riding e-bikes.
No, I know.
I'm just saying it's not the flood of, like, it's not the locusts descending on us like some of us had been worried about, maybe,
Right.
that's just not what you see.
Mhm.
And we have been empowered to make updates to this rules document, which is detached from the management plan. So, we
Yeah.
could ease up on the e-bike thing and just keep our eye on it. It's,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the reverse of where we're at currently with, well, maybe this is, a little bit extreme, but like I was thinking about the fact that we are being overly cautious with dogs and bikes in the northern zone right now, but but that is a moratorium, not like a rule that like we don't think that there should ever be activity. We just wanted more, user data and like wildlife data. This is kind of the reverse, saying like, well, we don't think it's going to be a problem, so let's just open it up for e-bikes, and if it's a problem, then we can, put e-bike,
Sure.
we can shut it down, because like, what happens if you ride your e-bike to the forest? But then you just are pedaling in the forest and you're not actually using like the e-bike. Or what if you just wanna use your e-bike up the access road and then you wanna pedal like once you're in a trail, like,
Right.
I don't necessarily see a problem with that.
Yeah, how do you enforce?
Can't,
Hey,
Can't.
Okay.
there-
too heavy to pedal.
that's right,
Oh,
that's right,
interesting,
that's
yeah.
right, that's right. Yeah, you would never have an e-bike and not actually use the motor, because they're
Right, so-
significantly heavy.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, but I will say this, guys, if you want to do this tonight, put it on the agenda, and remember, this is my, I think either last or next to last meeting before my term ends here. That on that, prohibitions things, motorized vehicles such as e-bikes, ATV, motorcycles, horses and traffic are not permitted. I don't think you need to include motorized vehicles, because that'll get you into the dispute, and neither horses nor trapping are motorized. So I think what I'm saying is, if you want to prohibit, just say the things that you're prohibiting without classing them.
Okay, that makes sense.
You see what I mean, Jim? So.
That's meant to be just a link though back to the easement, but you're right, the horses and trapping should be.
I mean, that's not motorized, and if
And
you want, if
It's
you want,
funny, I think 3 meetings ago, we consolidated it.
we saw it all.
Yeah, we missed that.
We missed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and then if, I'm just saying, if you wanna keep e-bikes out, then don't call them motorized vehicles, just say no e-bikes.
Right.
And then, then you can sidestep that whole debate about, are they motorized? What class are they? Did the Forest Service make that? Who made it? We don't want to do that.
To fix that,
Future.
the bit with horses and trapping, you could just say
Period.
blank, blank, blank are not permitted, which are the kind of the motorized stuff, right? as well as horses and trapping, something like that.
Yeah, if that just read ATVs, motorcycles, horses and trapping are not permitted, and then we see if e-bikes become a problem. I mean, I think if they were gonna be a problem, they would be a problem.
Yeah.
It's really. And I would define a problem. Do I want to go on the record saying this, but if those kids that we see around town are.
Yeah.
Then I would say. Something has to be
Yeah.
done about this, but if it's, yeah, the, 65-year-old.
Hey,
It's you.
If it's Ian, if it's right.
Exactly, and then that.
Yeah, I
You
mean-
ride e-bike?
I do, yeah.
It is kind of an accessibility
Yeah,
thing, you know?
yeah.
It's actually, I think it's
So, I don't, yeah, I
the
don't
type
want,
of people you want to see,
Right.
yeah, yeah, I don't wanna be overly restrictive in that what, we're not allowing certain people into the forest, because like. Using an assisted device is the only way that they're going to enjoy the
Yeah.
forest, so, yeah, I think it's kind of we're just gonna have to keep an eye on it, and we can adjust this document as necessary.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
All right, can I digress completely away from this, but leave that up?
Sure.
Sam, can you read that?
Can I, oh, right from here,
Yes.
I can barely, yeah.
Okay, because I can barely read it, because I thought you were reading and I'm going, am I going blind? Because.
No, I got it on my, I've also got it on my screen.
I knew you did. All right, thank
So,
you.
yeah, I
All
guess I
right.
could have,
No, it's fine, because
zoomed it in a little bit.
I'm not happy with my glasses, and I'm.
Hey, Trevor's asking a question about tree stands.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, hunting is allowed. Are tree stands allowed? Tree stands are.
Yeah,
allowed. Yeah, they're in there.
But the law is. You're supposed to. Get permission and put your name on them and not spike them into the tree. And take them down.
So, can they be left in the woods, but just not in the tree? That's common, right? There's
On the ground.
yeah,
Yeah, you gotta get permission.
a permission and in your address, name and address, is that what it is?
It's
Or
generally
contact-
name and phone.
Contact info is
Yeah.
on the tree stand.
Yeah.
And that's Vermont.
We tried to cover that with that phrase in accordance with Vermont state regs.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's a specific issue, we could put it in there.
I
There's a
think-
lot of things, that.
Well, I think that covers Trevor's question, like, if it's allowed by state law, Trevor, then
Right.
it's allowed.
So, yeah, I think what he's getting at is there was specific language about this in the last approved version of the management plan that somehow it fell out in this current version that's been approved. And so I think the question is, do we want to add that language back into the plan? That's explicitly stated the rule that people should be emailing us, and, asking for permission, and then also, removing it at the end of hunting season. It basically designated the exact, without going to the state, rules, you would basically see the exact rules in the management plan saying, yes, you can do it, but you need permission, so reach out to us, and then here are the dates, you've got to put it up.
it's really, this is the place for it.
This is like the cheat sheet, for
Right.
like quick, rules, for everyone, so this is a good place to put it.
Right.
If we want to call it out.
But I really think that we should not duplicate anything that is already established elsewhere, or we're gonna have to keep up with changes that happen. So if Vermont state regs say what you're saying, then that people should be abiding by that in the forest, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, but. They're gonna be walking by the sign, and then if we've got offenders.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, you gals. Just read the sign, can you? Because we had, remember last fall,
Yeah.
a year ago, we had to take a tree stand down. On Urbanic Way that had been there for years.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think we knew who it was, I've sort of forgotten. And unresponsive to take it down.
Yeah,
Well-
put us, announcement on from Forum
Right.
saying that the town wanted to identify the owner and have it removed, I think it was the message. And it got a response,
Oh, good, great,
it was brought down. And
great.
I think what we said is, if the owner doesn't claim it, then contact the town manager, and the town manager will give you permission
Right.
to remove it, or something along those lines. So we handled it, this
Right.
committee handled it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not a big deal for me.
No, me neither, I just think the more we include, then the more we have to keep throwing in, and I
Right.
wanna be as precise and as soon as possible. And if we wanna publish the Vermont State hunting regs too, and put them up every year, we can do that in the kiosk too. Yeah,
He does have a point about like, who do you reach out to? Like, if you do know what the Vermont hunting regulations are, then it would be helpful for hunters to have a contact. To have contact information for who should I ask?
but that is on here, right? I mean, aren't we listed as contacts on this sheet at the bottom? Yeah,
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah,
we're there.
Yeah.
So Trevor, I think if you're reading that and you got questions about the hunting regs, I think you just email or call the contact that's on there. That's why it's there.
Right.
Yeah,
We made the rules. If you got beef, call us.
Right.
any other, so I guess what's the plan with this document right now? Do we wanna post this as is, or we wanna hold off until we've had further discussions about the management plan, so we're not sort of jumping the gun, so to speak?
I think, it's in keeping with the current management plan, right? Isn't it? none of
Not
this-
exactly, like the dogs,
We go
dogs are
little-
welcome only in the southern area, that's not consistent with anything currently, like, with that is a proposal. In the current management plan that may or may not stand when it's
Right,
approved,
right.
so for us to go ahead and. Post rules that are not consistent with the approved management plan, like, I don't know if I'm
Mhm.
comfortable with that, because now we're basically. You know, the
We're gonna get in
select board
trouble.
entrusted us to
Yeah,
try to remain consistent with the management plan. If we start creating rules in this rules document that are not aligned with the management plan, that does not look good, in my opinion. So right now, because it has not been voted on, like, I don't know if I feel comfortable posting plans that supersede existing approved management plan rules.
But we
Yeah.
do have a rule, a leash law, leash rule.
right.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah, I'm
So
cool with that.
shorten it to just the leash part.
Yeah, so we want to just shore up a couple things and then post a version of this, at least for the summer. That might be nice, because we probably aren't gonna get to approving the management plan until the end of the summer, because. We're gonna get feedback from committees in July, and then we're gonna need to talk about stuff, and then if the select board. Would like to do a big public feedback meeting, or if we're doing online feedback, we're gonna have to have a period for that. Integrate that, and then, but by the end of the summer, we can get this thing wrapped up, but. The summer's the busy season, people are gonna want to use the forest, so it might be nice to have the dock up earlier.
So basically, we would modify the dog one,
Anything that's not consistent with the current approved management plan.
and would we take out e-bikes as well?
It sounds like we were in favor of that. I'm in favor of removing that. Julian had a good suggestion, which was, how about we just list the things that, that are not permitted?
Right.
So
So we might see some new users, older folks. With e-bikes.
Sam, can you edit this right now? Can we just do that?
I can't, but, I don't have an editable version of this, but, I think we can make those few changes. We can just have Ian make them, and then we can use that for the summer.
So
Like, can we just fork this document, like, if this is, well, I guess it's really just a document that would just get added or changed at the end, so.
do you want me to write in the minutes a version of dogs?
No, I think you can just be general in the minutes and just say like, we discussed the rules document, you decided that, we wanted to make the current rules document consistent with the current approved management plan by adjusting rules on dogs, and we also discussed removing e-bikes from prohibited uses. I don't think you need to go much more in detail than that. I mean, minutes are meant to be supplementary for somebody to look at and just get a general idea of what happened in the meeting. These are recorded, people can watch them. They're not meant to give you the blow by blow of like everyone's opinion and everything we talked about, that could be pretty high level.
So,
Does that make sense, Ian?
There is a rules document currently on at the kiosk. So,
It's the same one or a different one?
The earlier one anyway, it's probably different, I think.
yeah, it's probably from 2 years ago, so it differs from what's up there right now. So the question is, should we print and laminate this version and replace the one?
No, you're being asked to update this
But then, yeah, but
and
then,
laminate it. We
yeah,
need a vote on that?
Sure, we can vote, I mean, yeah, I guess. I'll make a motion that we make a few small adjustments to this document by removing e-bikes and adjusting the language around dogs. To remove the ban from the northern area, or only allowing them on the southern area, and then. Adopting that at least for the summer while we get through the management kind of approval process. Is there a second?
that.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, sounds like we're all in agreement. I don't know if we heard from Dan, so maybe you could record that as an abstention. But yeah, okay, so yeah, if you wanna make those few adjustments, and then we could probably just have the town print laminate them, or does that have to be done?
So I have yeah, I think I do, I have the original, I'll let you know if I find it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me know if you need any help there. Then we should probably move on. Next up, we have. Oh, we already talked about this. So, trail reroutes, the other one that we did not discuss would be, we have in the past talked about, oh wow, you're listening now. Can't read that. Is the former vast trail along the wetlands, both Ian and I have walked it a few times. The plan was to potentially move it, 100 feet or so, or 50 to 100 feet uphill, running parallel, so that we're getting out of the wetland buffer zone. And then there's still right of way, so if Bruce needs to use it for a tractor or cattle or whatever, then he could still use that trail. But then during the muddy seasons, we're basically routing the trail to higher ground where it's less likely to degrade and just get muddy.
And what's Bruce do then?
Well, he
was on the same trail.
He can still use the trail that he has
Even
right.
in muddy, right?
But we're just saying that
Even when it's muddy.
Even when it's
Yes,
money.
it
We're not
is-
shutting.
No, we're not. We're basically,
Yeah.
but the plan would be, it's gonna be a more fun trail for people to ride anyway, or to walk, and visit.
Mhm.
If we're routing it up anyway, cause you're just walking on a basic,
The road.
road
Yeah.
versus getting routed up into the, a few feet or, 50 feet uphill. Where you're gonna have a few nice little stream crossings with a little bridge and,
Mhm.
just it's a little bit more scenic, so. That's another thing that we could potentially, move forward with, although, I don't know if we. Wanna
Yeah,
wait for the management plan or not.
A rerouting of that section on the vast trail that currently goes through a wetland. It's possible, we've looked at it, we've both looked at it and looked at it, and I flagged a route recently.
Okay.
The challenge is 3 streams that would really need bridges.
There is bridging material at the landing.
Okay, so yeah, that's helpful, still need transporting and
Right.
construction.
So the question, I guess my question would be, we've sort of outlined a trail development process. I know that the reroutes fall into a slightly different category, but I'm assuming that we're still going to comply with a lot of those same steps, which are, making sure that a trail designer and or ecologist have looked at it to make sure that whatever we think is an appropriate trail is indeed an appropriate trail, especially considering the fact that it's crossing streams and we're trying to get out of the wetlands area. Was it Tina who we met with? She said well, if you go that far out, you're gonna be well outside of the buffer, but still, we should be reaching out to them when we're doing trail development in the forest to make sure that we're not. Going into wetland zones, so.
She said, if you do this, I should come back.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
Yeah.
yep, that was my recollection as well. So, yeah, happy to have, continued discussions around this. I'm not sure if we should wait until we're wrapped up with the management plan stuff, or if.
Can we do it based on the current management plan?
Sure, I mean,
So that's what
That
we're,
is fair.
that's what we're operating under.
yeah,
So I think we could
Or,
proceed,
or follow we
but
need,
follow the new plan.
yeah,
But we're doing it under the old approval.
yeah.
So
I
we're
think,
not sneaking anything
no,
in.
no, no. I think the only, and it's not, what actually parallels is in the old one is bringing a ecologist out to walk that little, it's a short route.
Right,
Just to walk it and look at 50 feet of each side for endangered essential plants.
right,
So, like they did on the proposed trails.
right.
Yeah. And it'd be a good pressure test in a way for our proposed parameters.
Right.
Yeah. We can follow it. Yeah.
so what do we wanna do for next steps? It sounds like it's been walked a few times, it's been flagged. I guess we just go through our checklist, I can bring it up, like what our trail development process looks like. And what we would do according to the plan, as it currently.
Do we get someone to help design it or
Well,
is it, I haven't been up there. It's
And,
so obvious.
Would an ecologist. I mean, I know like with the state of Vermont, there's the wetlands program, there's fish and wildlife, they'll come and look at, their
Yeah.
stuff they're interested in, would that, I wonder if they would. If they would just do that even though there's no regulatory call for it,
Yeah.
or would that also not be the type of ecologist that you guys were envisioning?
I was thinking like Arrowwood, because they did it. They did it before for the, the big plan.
Yeah, didn't we figure like it'd be great to get them kind of back into the conversation?
That we should.
Yeah. doesn't
Yeah.
that seem healthy?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't think they would come back in a million years.
You don't think so?
Oh, I think.
I
they
thought,
would.
who was,
Really surprised if they came back.
No, we never laid any heat on those guys. They did what they were told and did a good job, I think, anyway. They were told to do what they did.
Thanks for asking.
That's what a consultant.
maybe that could be a next step, is see if Arrowwood would be willing to walk the Ian's flagged route and provide feedback.
Yeah.
So, does that make sense, Sam?
Do we have a budget for it?
Yeah, we'd have to get an estimate from them,
So
but if they're willing, would be the first question.
yeah. That's where the Fish and Wildlife, like Tina, because it's a part of her
Yeah.
jurisdictional area,
See,
she
it's
just,
state.
she comes and that's a
Yeah.
part of her deal.
Right,
yeah,
Fish and Wildlife might operate, in a similar way where they would just come and take a look, because it's our property and we're
Yeah.
curious. What
Yeah.
the impact to the critters would be,
right.
so,
my hunch is that,
Or the
you know-
botanist, but yeah.
oh, you're thinking more.
Well,
so
that's
who
the way
does
it
that-
played out
that
with
is
it.
a Criteria with Act 250, right, the rare and endangered species, I wonder who they send.
Oh,
to
it's-
DNR.
All species, yeah. Well,
Is it,
based on what happened
It's
with
not Fish and
Airwood,
Wildlife.
when they walked the trails, when they took the close inspection, it was all plant stuff they found. And it just, cause that granular look, you're not gonna go, whoa.
isn't, I guess Tina's focused on wetlands specifically, but don't you think she would catch that stuff?
she might, but
She's
also,
probably, she knows wetland plants, but she may not know,
Right,
broadleaf fern.
and also like she's probably only gonna come out in her state capacity to do wetland stuff, I
Water
mean,
quality.
I don't know if we can just, maybe, I suppose, I think this came up in the context of, like trail development, if it's like. If you need an engineer, like a licensed engineer to do something, if they're an engineer and they decide to just go do this in their free time, does that count? Or not, I suppose if you have a wildlife biologist that just likes to do this like in their free time, then, that's great for us, because we could just potentially do it for free, but I guess.
I think.
I brought up the language that we have in the management plan here, which says, engage a practicing botanist, wildlife biologist, or other qualified practicing ecological professional to walk the flag route 50 feet on each side to identify rare, fragmented, endangered, native species or wetlands that could be disturbed by trail construction or usage. So, I don't know, if they fit that criteria based on the current, or this is like the proposed management plan.
Do you want me to ask Tina if she has a, colleague that does
Sure.
this? And
Yeah.
if
yeah.
she comes, there could also be, someone from the state.
Or counterpart over in Fish and Wildlife, she
Yeah.
knows, like.
Yes, and that's how Act 50 works, and you know, have a site visit, all the different divisions come.
Hey, Dan,
You know, have their own things they're looking at.
Yeah.
But they're all there together, you know, talking things through.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, if there's a free state resource we can use, then
Okay.
great, so I guess we can.
Any chance that the county forester? There's no logging taking place,
might know someone.
or, I mean, he's a generalist and these.
Yeah, we could ask.
He knows, you know. What a botanist knows.
Right.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yep.
Because this is rare stuff we're looking for, and he may not know that.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. But he may know someone. I mean, Ethan's pretty savvy in that stuff, I think, but I don't know.
I guess
If they're comfortable,
right,
you know, playing that role.
right. He's not the county forester.
But
And he
we
tends
just,
to-
get him to come.
Yeah.
Tends to shy away from trails and also.
You know, part of it,
Right.
I mean, I call that a pressure test. It's also setting an example for people who come in off the street with ideas.
Right,
And they may try to cut corners, say, well, can I get it for free if I, you know,
Right.
before you know it, we're in trouble.
Right.
So I think we ought to play it pretty
Ask it.
straight and not
Yeah.
stretch
yep,
to save a couple $100.
right.
Yeah, I guess it depends on like what the expense is, but like, I feel like.
Oh,
Sometimes we like back ourselves into a corner by like over regulating everything to the point where it's just like, now this is gonna cost, tens of thousands of dollars to put a trail in just because we put a bunch of things in our own way, and to me, that just seems kind of silly. It's like, I think that. Part of it's like,
Wetland delineation is expensive. If we're not gonna rely on Tina in this case.
Well, wetlands, yeah,
Oh, right,
she's great for
but if
that.
we said, we really wanna go deeper and get everything mapped perfectly.
Right, but
then
this is an upland habitat, so you want to bring in a wetland specialist.
Yeah, but if you're gonna avoid a wetland, you have to know where it ends, right? So
right.
you have to pay an engineer typically, or an ecologist to define where that boundary is. That's very expensive. I'm just backing up saying.
No, I know, yeah, we paid.
Yeah.
so I guess we'll ask around and see who we can find and see if we feel like that meets the needs, or the definitions of what this is stating we need for approval. I mean, we wanna do our due diligence, but like, the point here is not to, like, we want to be able to build trails. We want to be, assuming like there's a, further up, it talks about stating a need for the trail, and in this case, it's a reroute, and we're trying to move people away from a muddy section. It's like, I'm really hoping that what we've designed here is something that's actionable and actually is gonna allow us to be able to do things. And that we haven't created a document that's just getting in our own way so that we can't actually do anything. Like that's never been my intent. And I hope that that's not been the intent of anyone else on the committee, because I think that point is to have a workable management plan that we can actually operate under, not to just have something that's, regulating ourselves out of the, any ability to do anything. So I think we should reach out, see what resources exist. If we can find a free one through the state, that would be great. But if we, are trying to find people and it seems like they're not really qualified, then I think that we'll have a discussion about that, as a committee. We might decide, hey, this seems kind of sketch and we're just trying to like get, an approval. I will note that after this, there is provide opportunities for members of the ACF committee to walk the proposed trail. Then after that, number 4 is committee review and public input. So I suppose if somebody decides like, oh yeah, I found some guy, on the side of the road who said he was a wildlife biologist and like he walked the trails, that it was great. Then like that's gonna come up in step 4. And so folks can, I guess, try to use whomever they want. But when we come to talk about the trail, if they say like, oh yeah, this is the person that I got, that's when I feel like their credentials may be questioned, I suppose. And if they just got some random person who says like, oh yeah, like I'm an ecologist, but like they don't really have any, degree or, license, or they've never done any of that stuff, then that doesn't really count for much, so we might. Those are the types of questions we might want to ask as a committee when we're going through this process. But it sounds like next steps for this particular reroute are to identify an individual to walk the flag route, correct? So do we have somebody who,
And we have a flag route that Merrill shot, I missed that part.
Ian said he flagged it,
That's great.
you flagged the route, right, Ian? Do we want, I guess we could walk it again and reflag it, or make sure that we, like where the current flags are.
You literally flag, you got,
Yeah, and I have a GPS tracker.
Yeah.
For the route that I took. I think I went 3 times, and on the third time I felt like I got a good one, and yeah, I can, I'm looking at them on my screen right now, actually, the kind of this tracking. But as I said, the main challenge, I think, is the bridges, the stream crossings, the pretty substantial streams. And yeah, I need a little bit of planning to make a bridge.
Do you use this culvert here? There's a big culvert there already. It goes up this logging road here.
I think of the culvert as being way down here, not up by, this is the meadow.
Right, there's a big culvert there.
Okay.
There's a survey pin and
Yeah, there's a survey pin.
right beside the survey pin is a big culvert
Okay.
that the
And there's a
logger
road here.
has the road there. Yeah.
Okay,
It's just you.
okay, don't remind myself that they don't
Right,
really
because you-
remember.
You don't need a bridge if you're using the culvert.
So would somebody like to reach out to try to find someone, to walk the route, to meet the, expectations or the requirements of the plan here?
Do you want me to ask Tina? Do you want me to start?
Yeah,
with her?
Sure, yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah,
I could check, I've got 3 names of folks that might help.
okay.
All of who have been in, but 2 Kinsas too.
What's that?
But I'm thinking of Arrowwood is one, Liz Thompson used to work for VLT, botany's kind of her thing. And another guy, Brett Engstrom. Is a botanist, those 2, Liz and Brett, are the ones that found the fern on one of those previous trails that had been overlooked in the, the broad brush.
What was the capacity? What were they, like, how were they?
They're both,
No, I mean, so they found the fern, like, and they were tasked with,
yeah, it was like, let's walk this and see what, see if there's anything in the way. This is totally ad hoc.
I'm just thinking, like, so do we need to, do an RFP and?
Well, we see if they're willing to get that far, then we will need it. Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean an RFP to look for someone?
Well, Arrowwood, right, we would hire.
But I'm not sure you need an RFP if the dollar amount is below some
Yes, I believe.
level. I don't know what the level is, 10 grand or 2,500 or.
That's a good point.
That's
I didn't notice it.
It's a Josh question, I have the answer somewhere, we have talked about it.
Right, we don't do this with the editor.
Right,
Right.
right.
I have that.
Okay, well, it sounds like we have a path forward. I don't think we need, do I need to look at the RFP thing right now?
Yeah.
I feel like we can still,
Get back to
Purchases.
Should we just say we're gonna try and find a free?
or
botanist?
inexpensive.
Yeah, well, I think any money is different than.
So that,
A
well,
below RFP threshold, so.
The state has a botanist,
That's what I was thinking.
like Tina comes out, but stuff.
yeah, I'm just curious, are we able to use them, or do they have other things that they are doing, cause. It's great, and it'd be awesome if we can get the state botanist to come out, especially if it's free, but if they're like, yeah, we got other things we're doing, like, I don't know if there's any guarantee that we have access to them.
A
just
good
'cause
day
they
in the field beats bad day in the office.
have
It's the other way around. Bad day in the
It doesn't
field.
hurt to ask, that's a very good question, a very good point.
Also, are there people in the conservation commission that have this expertise that could?
that
do this?
would be licensed to do this, or like have, the
Yeah.
credentials? I don't think so. I can ask,
So,
I mean, basically, anything that we would do would be better than what the current situation is, right? If the trail
Yes,
is
I
not
would
where it
think
should
so,
be.
yeah, it's,
Right.
yeah.
I don't know sorry, go ahead.
anything that, where the trail is being proposed is better.
Yeah.
If we went the other side and went into the wetland, then.
Yeah, I mean,
that would
unless
be worse.
that, unless that fern, right, there could be, right? It's an
Yeah.
endangered, rare and endangered plant that
Could be.
would be impacted if we moved it. It's not inconceivable, but, right, that's the concern.
yeah, how long would this trail be? Roughly.
That would
would
be
like-
past. I'm guessing it's probably 1,000 feet, 300 meters,
Okay, roughly, okay,
maybe 500 meters. I'm guessing I could get it from a scale
okay.
I could find a scale on the Google Earth here. Not seeing a scale.
Okay, so it's not just a little.
Yeah, let me, I can get you a
Okay.
number for that.
Yeah. Tell Jimmy to, yeah. Purchasing, it says on the policy up to $3,000, you don't even need a PO. Town God, this is true, this is us. Town of Richmond. So you're Richmond, Vermont, right? You always have to look.
You do have to check that.
Town of, yeah.
Well, I feel like we can still move forward here and like,
Yes.
ask around.
Yeah.
I hate to just spend time here, just like staring at
Yeah,
the screen, trying to
right.
find like the answer here.
Right.
I think it would be problematic if we just went out and hired somebody that would without, so,
Yeah,
but I think we can still reach out, an inquiry is one thing. Hiring somebody without having like a proper, request for proposals is another, so I think we can move forward here. Folks should, interested folks should ask, to see if we can find somebody who would like to walk that route and can give us, an assessment.
yeah,
Sound good?
yeah. Here it is, multiple, you need. All says is multiple quotes up to 3,000, and then 3,000 to 15 written quotes or estimates from 3 vendors.
Okay, so as long as we get at least 2 people, to look at it, or to give us a quote on, here's how much it would cost for me to come out.
Yeah,
That
that
should,
should,
And then it would go to Josh to approve,
right.
yeah,
because we can't approve it.
No,
correct,
department-
although I suppose if it was free,
Oh, it's
Then-
free, yes.
then
Yep.
that would
Yeah.
probably be fine, right? But yeah, we should, I don't even know whose money we would be spending, I know we have an ACF account, but like we don't, it's not like I've got the credit card for that, it's like, they didn't. Yeah, they didn't give me a debit card when I became chair, co-chair. Okay, so,
Yeah, from a timekeeping perspective, it's 4:08.
okay, yeah, we should move on.
So, you want to move on to invasive species?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so yeah, item F, so I'm bringing this up because when we visited the forest on Friday, when Jim Wright and I visited the forest. It was very obvious, it being spring, when things are just starting to, to start growing again, that there is an abundance of multiflora rose in the, at the bottom section of ACF. It's all over the place. I kept thinking it was barberry and then realizing, no, that's multiflora rose. So there's a ton of that. There's also some barberry. We got honeysuckle. There's plenty of garlic mustard too. I also know there's a big, thicket or like jungle of Asiatic bittersweet, not too far off of organic. If you just start taking it up and take a look at the right. So I just wanted to get the conversation started here on what we would like to do about that. And maybe this is more of a conservation commission topic and, the RCC could potentially come up with a plan. And then come back to this, committee, with a proposal. But options, would include, volunteer work days. hiring a contractor to take care of some of this stuff. Or maybe just, members of this committee, or, maybe it's not like a volunteer workday, but we're just kind of picking away at it. It's a lot, and I think my, personal thought is, and this doesn't necessarily reflect the opinions of RCC or the town or like the residents of Richmond, is that I have a hard time believing we're gonna get a handle on some of this stuff without using herbicide, especially like, like a stump cut type treatment for stuff like barberry or multiflora rose is probably gonna be the easiest way, where you cut it, you dab it, and then you don't have to worry about it, versus mechanically ripping that stuff out and hoping that you got all the roots out, or coming back and recutting it once every year for 5 years or so. Like, that's a huge project. So, and for stuff like bittersweet, I don't know if you can really even get rid of it mechanically. Oh, there's also Phragmites. There's a little patch of Phragmites,
Oh, yeah.
off the main road.
Is there any experience of successful invasive removal anywhere ever?
It's controlled, it's really the word.
It's more, it's more
Yeah,
control,
yeah.
but, what I will note is there's, especially in that lower section, there's a really high density of thorny invasives that are really good mouse habitat, which probably has something to do with the number of ticks that people are picking up as well. And also, if we can organize some kind of, volunteer workday, it might also create, a sense of ownership, especially as we're trying to sort of enter this next phase where we're hopefully gonna get this, management plan approved, and to kind of do sort of like a re-opening or a grand opening or whatever we wanna call it, to really invite people back to the forest and to like let people know, like, it is open, we want people here, we wanna like, kind of like turn over a new leaf. It seems like having a volunteer day, or volunteer days where interested parties might want to show up and help clean up some of these, these things, could be an option. And I don't know what that would look like, but I just want to get like a general read from people on the committee in terms of like what people think. They bother me, like, it's been something that the Conservation Commission has been trying to work on, in terms of coming up with a plan, especially, for, managing invasives, both in neighborhoods through volunteer work days, but then also, at like a town-wide scale for, public lands to also come up with a plan, so.
I definitely feel like, that camaraderie that would go with, like you're talking about, I think that's really powerful and really important. I also think, for my own education, just hearing you talk about some of that stuff, I learn a lot, and I think a lot of people would in that setting.
Yeah.
Who maybe don't even know that they're looking at an invasive. So that's kind of a cool aspect of it as well.
It does sort of what's in your head.
I bet.
You drive around and say, oh my God.
And I think that's where looking at it, like, this might be futile, but
Socially valuable.
yeah, socially
Yeah.
valuable.
And there might be some things we can get rid of, and there's some things we can't get rid of, there may be things where, like, I look at that little Phragmites patch, it's so small, it's like, it would be a shame not to get rid of this, because like, if we can get rid of it and it doesn't spread, then that's like a huge win, because otherwise, it could just colonize eventually the entire forest.
Well,
We've also got,
It's colonizing the vernal pool, that northernmost pool
oh wow, it's all that far up.
as
Okay,
well, so.
okay, so there,
There's a couple patches.
so really targeted, also, this time of year, it's so easy to pull garlic mustard, it's, and that's entirely mechanical. That's something that we could do. So I just kind of wanted to get the conversation started, kind of like put, a bug in people's ear. So that we're thinking about this in terms of like how we want to move forward, and it would be very easy to coordinate with the Conservation Commission on, how to do this, how to organize a workday, or if we decide that some of the stuff, we do wanna try to take care of it, maybe we do wanna consider. Hiring a contractor to take care of it.
You just kind of need a broad plan, I think, that covers all that, And what will help too is a county forester in that case. Cause there's a bold-faced type, I think, in the forestry plan that says if you do nothing else, you gotta get these invasives out of there. Or that forest is gonna go to hell because they're pushing out other stuff, sometimes poisoning the soil, so. nothing else will grow.
The allopathic stuff that,
Yeah.
makes it so that nothing
So-
else can grow.
If we have an army of people out there and we're mechanically pulling the stuff out, what do you do with it in that case?
Depends on what it is, and it depends on the species, and it depends on the time of year, so. If it's, some things can reroute, and so you can't just leave it around, because if, you know, like if you mow over a patch of. Japanese knotweed, you're just gonna create more of it, you're not actually helping anything, because it'll just reroute all those. Exactly. Meanwhile, there are things like garlic mustard, it's really easy to pull, and you can just, if it hasn't seeded yet, you can just pull it out and just leave it on the ground, it's gonna die. You know?
But you gotta know how to pull it. 'Cause got
It's
that-
true, it does have like, yeah, a bit of like a hook
It's
root.
got a crook on it. If you leave that crook in the ground, it'll grow up again.
It will, but again, you're still wearing it down, even if you misstep here and there, like let's say you pull 80 plants and. You know, 10 of them you messed up and you didn't pull the whole root out, it's gonna come back smaller, you're weakening.
Multi-floral rose stuff.
The multiflora rose, that was like the biggest concern to me, because I didn't realize just how bad it was, and it is.
Yeah.
Thorny, which is not great for visitors, and it's also good for rodents, which means it's going to promote ticks as well. And so I feel like that's a good one to focus on, because it's going to help make the forest healthier, it's gonna potentially reduce the tick population. And that one, I think the easiest way to do it would be to cut and then do a stump, you know, like a stump cut treatment, but that would require looking into the rules for herbicide application on, you know, public land, might need a license, I know. You are allowed to do that on your own land, you know, depending on the types of chemicals you're using, some are class high enough that you need a license. I don't know about the town forest, I'd have to look into it, also, it's, you know, the optics of. Promoting that, like, I don't know, that's like, you know.
Proximity to the sun, its house.
Yeah, and it's very focused with the stump cut, but it's more of like if we're doing this on town lands, like. And RCC's been kind of like, you know, batting this around too, which is like, you know. We don't wanna make a decision on behalf of the town of Richmond that then is wildly unpopular, right? If most people in town. Have like a zero tolerance policy for herbicide, then like we probably shouldn't use it, you know, even if that's not convenient for us, you know, like even if, you know. I'm convinced that when used responsibly in small amounts for things like stump cut, it's a really great tool. You know, Ethan Tapper's a, you know, pretty big proponent of using it for stuff like this. But we just need to have discussions about it and make sure that if we're moving forward, we're doing it within the bounds of the law, you know, and we're doing it in such a way that. The town feels good about it, you know, like we don't wanna upset people or make things harder, you know, for.
But in the short term, we could schedule a day, get people out there, start mechanically pulling this stuff.
Yeah,
We just
and
need to know,
Teach them how to identify it.
teach around that, we just need to know what you do with it, once it's pulled out of the ground.
Yeah.
Can it just get put in the meadow and meadow gets
Yeah.
growing again, it'll just kind of be, you know, overwhelmed by grass, or is that?
there's
Spreading it, or?
there are resources online, like Vermont Invasives is a great resource that will tell you how to, you know, how to manage it, and so we would need to do it per species, right? And basically, we might have a day where it's like, rather than, here's a list of 6 different invasives we're trying to get rid of, it would be like, today's multiflora rose day, we're just gonna go in and deal with this one plant, don't worry about anything else, even if you see it, even if you know it's invasive. This is a day where we're just focusing on educating people about how to identify and remove this one thing. That way, we can have one plan, maybe we start with something that can be left on site, that makes it easier. Maybe if it's something that needs to be hauled out, we can coordinate with the highway department, you know, because this is town land, maybe we can haul it all out. And then they can, you know, drive it over to, you know, the CSWD or whatever,
Could
so,
invite in the county forester. It's there,
sure.
And
maybe join us on that
and
initial meeting.
is there anything that would respond? To brush hogging, we've got Richmond Mountain Trails. Right, it's gonna,
And I think depending on when you cut it, you know, assuming it's not something that has a berry or is going to reroot. There are things like multiflora rose, which I believe you can just cut it down at multiple years in a row and you'll wear it out and eventually it'll die, but you need.
Trevor Brooks is making some comments about this.
Okay, yeah, Trevor's mentioning. Now would be the time multiflora rose can reroot if left on the ground, get started, see what you can get done.
yeah, it's probably.
I got the name of the state botanist, Grace Lynn. You know why, great,
Oh, she knows the
super
forest.
nice.
She knows, she was part of the UVM Field Naturalist Program,
Oh, it's
Spell her name?
Grace Lynn,
Grace,
GLYNN.
yeah,
G-L-Y.
there was a whole thing on TV about her, it's very cool.
Well, thing,
She likes plants,
um,
very good expert.
Ethan, I think, has an invasive map on his forestry plan.
I wonder like when that's from and how much it's changed.
Oh,
You know, a little terrifying to look at to see like how much it's spread, or maybe encouraging if it's kind of stayed somewhat static.
Way to start, you know?
Didn't Ethan talk about having invasives on his personal property and how he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he
Buckthorn.
talks about it in his book.
Yeah,
And I'm sure he's got some videos online about it as well.
I think Sue Moore showed us a picture of a forest that had totally taken over by invasives and terrible looks.
I mean, I think that
It's not too late, I think, yeah.
No, it isn't, no.
it's not, and the good news is that the further north you go in the forest, the less and less you see. It's really a little depressing when you're right down by the parking lot, but I feel like what we could do is we could take a approach where rather than start at the parking lot, we scout things out, we figure out where the northernmost section is, where we're seeing the invasives, we start there and we work our way down, and that way we're trying to keep it out of the, like, the further reaches, and then, you know, it's gonna get easier and easier to have these work days as we pull more stuff out and as we're focusing it closer and closer to Route 2. That's like the vector where all this stuff is getting spread. It's close to the highway, you know, that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. It's like, you know, that unfortunately the state with like a lot of like mowing, you know, will end up, you know, spreading the stuff around. And, you know,
Yeah.
and just people's cars, you know, driving, you know, through other parts of the, you know, the town, or, you know, if the stuff getting carried in, you know, by pets, or, you know, on your hiking boot or whatever. There are a lot of
Skitters,
vendors,
skitters.
Yeah, logging.
but yeah, it should.
I mean, if we just started at the landing. Went down, right?
Right.
That'd be great.
And probably
Yeah,
the forest road.
And the
The-
forest road, yeah, were you noticing them
Yeah.
on the other side there? It was.
Yeah, yeah.
There.
Yeah, I saw them up as high up as, the power line cut. I saw multi-floor rows up there. I think there's a few bittersweet plants up there that I remember seeing. I think.
There's honeysuckle, new honeysuckle in the power line room.
Oh, great. Yeah, so, you know,
That's
Awesome.
Ethan's, so. All those colored dots, but it's, they're all pretty much below the power line, or below vast, on or below vast. He doesn't know anything about.
So we're at 8.
okay, yeah, so we should wrap it. So what do we wanna do for next steps there? Do we want to, want me to reach out to RCC and coordinate on what a good plan would be, or do we want to just plan? Like make a plan and just try to,
Would it be too forward to schedule something? And try and get like,
An event,
yeah, and then
Yeah,
we'll show up and figure out what we're gonna do once we're there.
we could, yeah,
Gotta force the,
it's Conservation Commission, you're not gonna meet for another month, right?
sure, and we need to talk about the plan, like the management plan anyway. So I'm in favor of getting a date on the books and like. I don't know if we want to do
Saturday
that now
morning?
or if we want, what's that?
a Saturday morning.
seems reasonable.
Yeah,
We could follow Ethan's map here to find stuff.
so yeah, I guess, you know, depending on what we're going after, you know, we might need to coordinate with somebody who has a truck, you know, or, you know, potentially a big truck. We're getting rid of like a lot of this multi-flora rows, which we shouldn't just leave on the ground.
But if we're, correct me if I'm wrong, if we are cutting it and dabbing it, there's nothing to remove.
well, rerouting can be a problem. When you cut some plants, then if you just leave the top part of the plant on the ground, you know, it can reroot and you just end up spreading it.
Even the dead plant can reroot.
Some, not all plants, but some plants, yes.
You're gonna cut it, and that living branch can reroot.
Oh, no, I get that. The stump can reroot.
No,
You're
no,
saying
no,
what
the
you
branch-
cut?
but what you cut off.
Cut that and leave that there, that can start a new plant, some with certain species.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Oh,
like the dogwood, dogwood and honeysuckle, not honey, I think forsythia,
It's a big project, so a date is great, but I would simultaneously, I think, also talk to the conservation commission to get the bigger,
yeah,
help with the bigger game
Yeah.
plan.
Right.
Yeah, cause I think we should target a certain species,
This is
have
a
a plan.
multi-year, multi,
It is,
it's a big.
big-
but I like the idea of just, actually doing something that is
Yeah,
talking
that
about
feels
it.
good. I just think.
right.
Yeah,
So
The bigger plan.
we're
John,
almost into June.
John Carton may help on that. He's big.
The 27th of June,
I might not be around, but
I'm proposing dates that I'm not here, so.
yeah, I probably won't be here either.
It's a good move.
The 20th?
I think that sooner is probably better, I'd be in favor of the 13th. Cause I should be around for that, 1, 2, 3, that's about 4 weeks, a little less than 4 weeks. That's, I think, plenty of time, June 13th, that's plenty of time, I feel like, to plan. To come up with a plan, of which species are we going to deal with? How, do we need to coordinate with the highway department or some other, person to be able to haul that stuff out? What's the disposal plan, or can we just leave it on the ground? Putting out a notice so that, volunteers, it may just be folks here in this room that are doing it, and then if that's all it is, that's still, I feel like could be a successful event. But there might be some other members of the public that wanna participate. So I think 4 weeks is enough time for us to answer some of those questions, get something, get something organized and to have a work day.
Right.
Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds great.
Okay, I would be happy to coordinate, seeing as, we've been talking about this stuff, on RCC.
Would be great.
And so I can reach out to folks and we can come up with a plan for how we wanna do things, with the potential date of,
Generally, I think I'm
June
correct
13th.
when I'm saying this. Generally, other towns don't want our invasives. So we're not likely to take them to the transfer station or either to
Oh, well, they do have disposal, for,
invasives?
yeah,
Okay, all right.
they will take it.
All right.
I don't know what they do, mulch it or heat it up or whatever,
Okay.
they can take that stuff.
I see.
So,
Good.
otherwise, there's, probably nowhere to put it except for just burn it, or something, I'm not sure.
Probably it's really hot in the composting process.
Exactly, I think you can
Right.
kill it off just by, the compost gets so hot. Okay, well, we are at 8:03.
What time on June 13th should we?
Oh, I don't know,
9, 10,
probably
9?
earlier is probably better, 9,
9
Yeah.
a.m.?
I mean, it's likely to get hot the longer, the later in the day.
Yeah.
So we could probably do 9 to 11 or 9 to noon or something like that,
Yeah,
and just,
okay.
yeah, I think that would be reasonable. Cool, well, with that, it's 8:04. I'm not sure where the select board is next door, but, Brad and I'll get over there to talk with folks. Oh, I will note I just put this as an aside for upcoming meeting. We should talk about wildlife monitoring, that's something that got kicked around, but then we didn't decide to put it in the management plan because we didn't really have time. But it's something that we'd like to do, or some folks here were interested in doing, so I'll be putting that on an upcoming agenda. If you have any thoughts on that, feel free to email me to ask or comment. Next meeting is June 22nd, if that works for folks. I actually may not be around for that. But I, trust that Brad can run the meeting in my stead.
That's what, June 2nd.
June 22nd.
22nd.
So at some point, that would be our first meeting of the new.
True, which we should
So part of when the agenda is being set, we need to
talk about chairs.
chairs.
Maybe like a new one.
So, because each year we have an annual meeting and that's
That's a great point, and I would love to talk about that. If anyone else is itching to be chair, I'd be fine by that. It's,
June 22nd is the Is the meeting to talk about that?
Well, yeah, typically first meeting of the new year, so like, yeah, I don't know, I guess. Does that mean I can't be chair if I'm not here?
No, you more likely to be chair.
It's the only way.
Get back to chair, oh, great.
It's called externalization of costs.
Yeah.
Economic theory behind it.
Okay.
Whoever's not at the table ends up paying the bill.
I see, great.
Externalization of what costs.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have 3 vacancies.
We will, as of right now, I will, yeah, we are gonna have 2 at-large seats and 1, Trails representative seat open
Yeah.
in June.
So there will be 6 members of this committee in June. So you don't want to lose more than 1 or 2.
That's true, because like, well, when a quorum is, this is a committee of 9, so a quorum is 5, which means that if I'm gone, then we're at, with the being down those 3 members and me, if I'm gone, that means everyone will have to be here.
Yeah.
Any decisions made will have to be made unanimously, because I'll remind folks that the way that voting works is you need a quorum to meet. You also, votes always go according to the number of seats on a committee, not based on the number of people in the room. So any committee or any meeting that has, a bare
But
quorum.
it's not filled seats, it's just total
It's
seats.
total seats, yeah, according to the town, the state.
And if we're unable to fill them, if we sense we can't fill them, we could ask the select board to.
Reduce the size of the committee.
Notice.
They have done that, I think,
Yeah.
in the past, so that can happen,
Right.
and it may over time. Yeah, end up that there's not so much interest in this committee that we need 9 people. 9 is a lot,
Right.
so could be that changes. But that said, I guess these are things to consider. We can schedule, we're not, outside of this. I guess while I'm here, would we rather try to meet when I'm still in town, or I might be gone the back half of June and I'm busy on like starting the 16th, and I think I'm busy on the 15th of June, which means we need to meet the 2nd week of June. But I'm also fine with just, you can just meet without me.
Let's wing it without you.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah,
See if we can do it.
I'll just note again that,
Refreshing.
hopefully the other 5 folks who are gonna be here, who are on the committee, so, Jim, Wright, Brad, Dan, and Sonia all have to be here for you guys to be able to meet, otherwise, you cannot meet,
If Brad makes it through tonight's select.
That's a good point, it's gonna be tough, but if the select board reappoints Brad.
Motion we adjourn.
Should.
Yeah, okay, yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thanks.